We are back in action this weekend against Livingston in the Scottish Premiership, and despite us being top of the league, there is a lot of negativity surrounding the club after our midweek defeat to Feyenoord. In today's video though, we will go over what Brendan Rodgers has said with regards to our transfers and the model he is looking to strive for. Not only that, but we'll also go over all the latest Celtic news from the last 24 hours. But first, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel for daily Celtic content. Celtic manager Brendan Rodgers has dropped a significant hint about his transfer plans for the upcoming January transfer window. While Rodgers has been known for his penchant for nurturing young talent, his recent comments suggest a shift in focus. The Hoops manager appears to be setting his sights on more experienced, oven-ready players to bolster his squad. In his latest press conference, Rodgers subtly revealed that he has reached his quota of young players to develop. The message was clear: it's time for proven talent to come through the doors at Celtic Park. If you look at the club's strategy, it's that, younger players. It's signing the younger players to develop and improve, Rodgers told Celtic TV. I've said it before here, that to maximise that potential, then you need that balance in your squad. You need quality and experience. This comes after a summer where Celtic primarily invested in players who are more projects than finished articles. While the strategy of signing young players with high potential aligns with the club's long-term vision, Rodgers is evidently aware that a squad solely composed of budding talents won't cut it in the high-stakes environment that Celtic operates in. The manager's comments underline the need for a balanced squad, one that combines the exuberance of youth with the wisdom of experience. Rodgers is no stranger to the pressure of delivering immediate results, and he knows that the club's faithful expect nothing less than the best. Rodgers' call for quality and experience is a clarion call to the board as well. The January transfer window presents an opportunity to correct the course and bring in players who can contribute the right way. It's a chance to blend the raw potential of the squad's youngsters with the steadying influence of seasoned professionals. This blend could be the key to unlocking further success, both domestically and in European competitions, if we're still in Europe. Brendan Rodgers led his Celtic side to Rotterdam during the week, but the boys eventually faltered to a disappointing 2-0 loss. Things did not go to plan at all for the Hoops, but results elsewhere in the Champions League helped Brendan Rodgers gain some inspiration. In Group D, Austrian side RB Salzburg travelled away to Portuguese giants Benfica. Salzburg came away with a vastly impressive 2-0 victory, and Rodgers believes their recruitment strategy is one the Celts should be aspiring towards. Typically they will look to promote from within and or buy young talent with high ceiling and sell them on for a major profit. He said, "I think Red Bull Salzburg went to Benfica and won 2-0 with a lot of young players, top young players. So that's what we can aspire to, making improvements and maximising the players that we have and just getting better. That'll be the difference if the model is to bring them in young." It is difficult to compare Celtic and Salzburg, as the latter is part of a major footballing group of numerous clubs that openly share and exchange information on players, recruitment, scouting and transfers. The Hoops do not have this advantage, but will still look to move towards a model over time. They are arguably there already with sales of several young players for a significant profit, including Jota, Dembele, Van Dijk and Ajer. The scale Salzburg is doing it on, though, is much larger, and the Hoops have a long way to go before they are selling players who are proven in the Champions League to teams like Liverpool and Bayern Munich. Luis Palma made his first start for Celtic in Tuesday night's defeat to Feyenoord. The Honduras international had featured as a second-half substitute during our Premiership win over Dundee last weekend, but his big moment arrived against Eredivisie's side in the UEFA Champions League a few days later. Palmer may have been a surprise starter to some in a game of that magnitude, given his previous involvement under Brendan Rodgers, but the Celtic boss clearly felt he was ready for the big occasion. The move didn't really quite pay off though, with Palmer not really impacting the game in the way we'd have liked. As per who scored, he had just 6 dribbles in the match, with 2 of them successful. In all, he touched the ball 38 times in his hour on the park. The notion of a honeymoon period is a thankful one nowadays. Palmer may just be in the door, but he is already being judged. The subject of his performance came up on this week's open goal right in the coupon show. Former Celtic youngster Paul Slane and ex-Rangers man Derek Ferguson were both underwhelmed by the winger's showing. "I was expecting a wee bit more," said Ferguson, with Slane agreeing. "He just couldn't get into the game," explained former Scotland hero James McFadden. "You were expecting somebody who's going to be pacey and take people on. He didn't really do that until the last run he had. It's tough though. His first start and it was in the Champions League. It's a tough one, but he looked a wee bit off it. Whether that's a lack of sharpness or not." Whilst Palmer's performances maybe wasn't the blow-away one many of us would have hoped for, the reality is that it is incredibly early days in his Celtic career. He seems to this writer at least like your typical confidence player. Much like Jota, one big moment could be enough to spark him into life. It was a tough first start for him, at a level he had never experienced before. He wasn't the only Hoops attacker not to stand out at the coup. Hopefully he's back in the team for Saturday's clash against Livingston and can start to show us the undoubted quality that he possesses. Former Celtic star Moussa Dembele is absolutely flying in Saudi Arabia. The French forward is playing for Al Ettifaq, the team managed by Steven Gerrard, and featuring Jack Hendry, Jordan Henderson and Wijnaldum. He signed for them in late July. Dembele's career has hit the rocks a little in recent times. He had a hard time of it last season with Lyon, and then made a surprising move to Saudi Arabia at just age 27. But the big man scores goals wherever he goes. That is how things are playing out in his new home. Dembele netted twice in Ettifaq's thrilling 4-3 win over Al Tay on Thursday evening. That followed on from a goal against Abda and another brace against Denmark prior to the international break. It's 5 goals in 3 matches and 6 and 6 in this season's Saudi Pro League. Looking at the league's top scorers, only Cristiano Ronaldo with 7 goals has netted more this campaign. Whilst Dembele's exploits are now happening a far bit away from the gaze of European football, it is still great to see that he hasn't lost his scoring touch. With Scottish and Spanish league titles under his belt, he will now be hunting another title in Saudi Arabia. Al Ettifaq are 2 points off the top. John Hartson says Brendan Rodgers' Celtic would beat David Moyes' West Ham United amid the talk of the financial gulf between the two clubs. It's well documented that the English Premier League pours money like rain into the bank accounts of their teams, but the Scottish Premiership, in comparison, is having a drought. That means the likes of Celtic can't compete, with Hartson stating that his former side don't have the money to go and buy these marquee signings, as he told Go Radio. Last season, David Moyes guided the Hammers to Europa Conference League triumph, despite finishing in the bottom half of the Premier League. As a result, they are now competing in the Europa League this season, with Celtic in the Champions League. But when Hartson was told that Celtic have no chance against a team like West Ham if they were to play each other, he issued the following 10-word response before also talking about the gap in finances. On Celtic having no chance against the likes of West Ham, he said, "I think Celtic would beat West Ham, I really do." On the money gap, he said, "The money isn't there anymore to go and buy £10 to £15 million players. Not that they ever did that before. Celtic and Rangers don't have the money to go and buy these marquee signings. It's never going to happen, but if Celtic were handed over a sustained period the finance of Premier League teams, then fans would see them really raw." Added to the size of the fan base, Celtic would no doubt be able to compete with the best of the best in English football. Not only that, but the boys would then be able to step into the Champions League and reach those knockout stages on a regular basis. But until then, they are always the underdog on paper. Celtic fans, what are your thoughts on our current business model? Let me know down in the comment section below. That brings us to the end of today's video. Make sure you drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more Celtic content. Remember, we have released our brand new Celtic t-shirts with our Brendan Rodgers Pope t-shirt and our Celtic Ultra t-shirts too. You can find them at celticapparel.com or just go down to the link in the description. Thank you, take care, bye bye.